Okay, what are they, how do they work, and why are they sometimes tricky, okay? So we'll talk about all those things, because sometimes these are actually kind of tricky. Even though at first it's going to appear that it shouldn't be. What do you think absolute value means? What have you been taught that absolute value means? What do you think, Dakota?
All of it, like the entire shape.
The entire shape. That's close. That's close. Anybody else got an idea of what absolute value might be? Logan, what do you think? If I say this, let me just ask this. What are the possible values of x, Logan? What do you think? Are they only positive? That's the question. Because this is why it's super complicated. We think absolute value should always be positive, which is in a way true, but it doesn't actually explain what's going on, okay? This actually means, and this is something I want you to write in your notes, the absolute value means distance from zero. Distance from zero. Kenny, where do you live?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Elmo.
Live in Elmo, right?
Yep.
Okay, anybody here live in, oh no, that's not gonna work. Who lives in Huntington? Okay, so we have Jonna and a few others. Tristan looks like he lives in Huntington. Who lives in Farron? Okay, Logan, a few others. So I got a question. You gotta answer this, Gianna. If I go to Huntington, if I go to Farron from here, how far is it? Either way, it's about 15 miles. Huntington's a little bit closer, but more or less, we'll just say 15 miles either way. Now, if I go, Gianna, to Huntington, am I going in negative 15 miles? And if I go to Logan to Farron, am I going a positive 15 miles? Or do you just say I'm going 15 miles? What do you guys think?
If you're going from 15.
If I'm going from here to Huntington, and I was gonna say, how many miles am I gonna go to Huntington? Would I say negative 15 miles, or would I say 15 miles?
Negative, because you're going back.
I'd just say 15 miles, right? If I'm going to Farron 15 miles, would I say I'm going a negative 15 miles?
No.
I'd say 15 miles. So here's the trick. This means distance from zero, right? But there are two directions. There's a positive direction and a what? And a negative direction. However, those distances are both really, we consider them to be what? Positive. Do we ever mention distance in a negative fashion? No, except for 6 feet under, in which case you're dead. That's negative. But besides that, we usually don't talk about distance in a negative direction. This is key, this idea. So now thinking about that there are two directions that are still the distance of 8 units from zero. Everybody with me now? The distance of 8 units from zero, two directions. How many answers are there going to be for this equation?
One.
No. That's you. There is one. What's one of the answers?
Positive.
Positive what?
Positive 8.
Positive 8. X could be 8, and would its absolute value be 8?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is true. So one of the answers is just 8. Okay, Sally, what's another answer though? Think about the Huntington-Farron thing. Think about a number line. This is saying I want to know a value whose distance is 8 units from zero. We've named 8. 8 is 8 units from zero. What else is 8 units from zero?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. Very good. This is also true. And that's why, and this is, somebody said it at the very first of class, I think it was Logan, said, an absolute value is always positive. Kind of. I don't want you to think that, because if you think that, guess what's going to happen here? You're going to only list this, just like Canyon did, right? Your idea in your mind is going to be, oh, it's only positive. and you're only gonna list one answer. When really there are how many answers here? There's two, because this is saying distance from 0, 8 units. There's a distance that is positive and there's a distance that is negative. So remember that the positive and negative signs actually represent distance. So there's actually two answers there. Now, by the way, if I took the absolute value of 8, what would it equal? What does the absolute value of 8 equal? How many units from 0 is it?
8.
8. This is the trick. What's the absolute value of negative 8?
-8. 0.
No.
No?
Think about it. This is saying, what is the distance of negative 8 from 0? 8. Very good. Whether you're going to Barron or Huntington, it doesn't matter. You're still 8 units away. Everybody with me on that?
Don't you want to take the negative of that 8?
No, that's what we're saying. This is what's tricky about absolute values. Absolute value is claiming we want to know the distance from 0. So think about a number line, okay? Are you with me, Danny?
Yeah.
You're on a number line. You're at negative 8.
Mm-hmm.
How far are you from 0?
8.
8 units, correct? Your distance is 8. That's what this is saying,
Okay.
okay? The distance is 8. You're on a number line, Danny, okay? You're at 8 units. You're at 8. You're at the number 8. How far away are you from 0?
8.
8 units. Same answers. You see what I'm saying? And that's why people think, oh, the absolute value is always positive. It's how we represent distance that is always positive. It isn't necessarily, that isn't what absolute value is saying. Absolute value is saying, what is the distance from 0 to that point? Okay, and so when we write an equation, and this is something I want you to write in your notes, when you have an equation that is an absolute value, you should always have how many answers? When you have an absolute value equation, meaning that the variable is in the absolute value, how many answers should you have, Logan? 2. How come? There's a positive direction that it could be, and a negative direction it could be. So you want to write that in your notes. Okay, everybody put that in your notes. Probably the most important thing, and probably the biggest mistake made on these, is that a lot of kids only do one equation when they should be doing what? 2. You can go in a positive direction or a negative direction, and the distance is the same. Okay, let's do another one. A little more difficult, but not a lot harder. Okay? Tell me what the value of x would be that would represent a distance 7 units from 0. That's what this is asking. Tell me what the value of x would be that would give me a distance 7 units from 0. Now, one of the answers is pretty easy. What do you think one of the answers is? Would it be 7? What would happen in here? 7 plus 3 would give you what? 10. Is 10 7 units from 0? No, so it's not 7. What else? Logan, go ahead. 4. 4 is the one most kids are going to put. Some kids are just going to look at this and they're going to say, okay, it's got to be 4. How did you get 4, really? 4 plus 3 is 7. In other words, x plus 3 equals 7, and you did what to both sides?
-3.
Yeah, you just subtracted 3 from 7. That's how you knew it was 4. That's great. You're correct, but you're only partially there. How come? You went 7 units from 0, which is fine. That's what this is saying. 7 units from 0 in a what direction? Positive direction. I should also go 7 units from 0 in a what? Negative direction. So what other equation, we wrote this one, what other equation should we write, Canyon? What do you think?
X equals -4.
Pretty close. Don't do that.
-3.
Nope, you're going to write x plus 3 equals, I went 7 in a positive direction, I should go 7 in a what?
Negative direction.
Negative direction. Oops, sorry. And this is how we set it up. 2 equations, positive distance and negative distance, both ways, okay? What happens is just like Canyon did, is what a lot of kids are going to want to do. They're going to want to say, oh, if it's positive 4, then the opposite must be true, and it must be what? -4. Is that correct? Not correct. What should I do to solve this equation? How do I get the x by itself? Braylee, how do I do that? How do I get the x by itself right here?
Would you subtract 3?
Yes. Now think about the number line, or the signs are the same, you should add and keep the sign, however you want to think of that. How far will I be? If I'm at -7 and I minus 3 more, where am I at, Brian?
-10.
-10. So those are my two answers. Can you see that? They're not exactly the same. They're not just 4 and -4. You with me on that? They are actually going to give you a distance from 7 in a positive direction. If I go 4 from 0. And if I put in -10 there, notice what will happen. What's -10 plus 3? What's -10 plus 3? -7, so I'm a distance of 7 in a negative direction. Everybody got that? So this is all it's saying. This value that is not, and this is what you want to put in your notes, I want this in your notes, the value that is not with the absolute value, okay, the number value that is not with the absolute value is telling me the distance from 0. The two equations are going to go in a positive and in a negative direction from that value, from 7 in this case. Everybody got it? Okay, let's try the next one. Gonna get a little bit harder every time, okay? Here we go. I don't want you to tell me the value of x on this one. It's kind of harder to do anyway. But tell me the two equations I should set up. Okay, Nick, what's one equation I should set up? What's one? How come I'm setting up two equations, by the way? Go ahead, Lou. I got to go a positive and negative direction. How far? 11. That's the key number, okay? I've got to go a positive and a negative direction. So what are the two equations I should set up, Nick? Give me one of them.
2x plus 5 equals -11.
Good. 2x plus 5 equals -11. Nick said I'm going to go in a negative direction 11. Very good. What's the other equation I should set up? Let's have, right, is it Riker? Ryder, what's the other equation I should set up?
2x plus 5 equals 11.
Very good. He went in a what direction? Positive direction, 11 from 0. Don't worry about what the answer is, just worry about setting up your two equations. Now, it won't be that hard to figure out your answer. Tristan, what should I do to get this x by itself? What's the first thing I should do?
-5.
Good. By the way, Tristan, what's the first thing I should do here?
-5.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Will it give me the same values, though? No. Okay, this one's going to give you 2x equals -11. Again, think of the number 9. -11 minus 5 more. Or just think if the signs are the same, I got to add and keep the sign. How far do I go in that direction?
-16.
-16. But over here, Griffin, how far am I going to go? What's 11 minus 5?
4.
11 minus 5, where are you at?
6.
6. Okay. All right. Now what should I do to both sides, Danny? Of both equations to get the x by itself?
Divide by 2.
Yep, divide by 2. Both equations. So you would think, oh, I'm just going to get one positive, one negative. Is that true? No, you get actually different numbers here, okay? So Danny, what's this one going to give us?
-7 or
16 divided by
6
2 is?
8.
8. Good.
Okay.
How about this one?
This one would be 3.
Now, if I plug in the -8, what do you expect this whole thing to end up being inside of here?
11.
-11. If I put in a 3, what do I expect the whole thing to be? Positive what? 11. Because the distance from 0, that is 11 units from 0, in a positive direction is 11, in a negative direction is -11. So therefore we have these two values as our answer. Let's check them. If I put in a -8, what will it give me? 2 times -8, Briley, what's that?
-14.
Close, -16.
Oh.
-16 plus 5 is -11. What's the absolute value? See, this is why absolute value plays in. What is the absolute value of -11? In other words, What is the distance negative 11 is from 0? It's 11. That's where we get the idea that it's always positive, right? And it's true that it's always positive after you've plugged it in, but it's not true that it's positive when you set it up. And again, I wish elementary teachers wouldn't do that, is say, hey, it's always positive. Because the distance is what we're talking about. This is a negative distance of 11. Therefore, the distance is 11. But we don't, because we never think of distance as negative, just like Huntington and Farron. It's not negative distance, it's just 11 from here.
Yep.
11 miles from here or whatever, okay? All right, so how about this one? Plug in 3, what are you gonna get? What's 2 times 3? 6 plus 5. 11 in a positive direction, okay? So both of those work. Now here's where it gets tricky. Here's where it gets tricky, is if we have an absolute value on both sides of the equation. We sometimes, what we get is called extraneous solutions. Ones that won't work both ways, and it's because of the idea of an absolute value. So let's set one of these up. Okay? Let's say I had 2x plus 1, absolute value, equals 3x plus 11, absolute value. Okay? Why is this one so different from every one I've had before?
You have to figure out.
I have an absolute value on both what?
Sides.
Sides. Now what do I do?
Have to get X's.
Well, you still do just one side. You pick a side, it doesn't matter which side you pick, and you still say it could be the positive of this or the what? Negative of this. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to do 2x plus 1 equals the positive, exactly how it's written. Or 2x plus 1 could equal what? The negative of this. Now, here's what happens. I have kids that don't distribute the negative. They just put negative 3x plus 11. That's wrong. Everybody got that? When I take the negative of this whole thing, it has to be the whole thing, I have to distribute a negative through there. Everybody got that? Okay, so let's distribute that negative first. Okay, Jacoda, what will I get when I distribute the negative through there?
Negative 3x,
And?
negative 11.
Good. Don't forget to distribute the negative to the 11. That's super important. Okay? Now let's solve both these equations. Okay? How do I get the x's on one side here, Griffin? What should I do?
What?
My goal is to get the x's on the same side of the equation. What should I do?
The minus 2.
Minus 2x. Okay, I'm going to minus 2x. Did I get the x's on one side of the equation now? Yep. 1 equals x plus 11. Okay, now what should I do to solve this one, Logan? What should I do to get the x by itself here? Minus 11. Other Logan, what will that give me? Okay, that's one of our supposed answers. We'll check them when we're done. Because like I said, sometimes on these we get extraneous solutions, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, Nick, what should I do to get all the x's on one side on this one?
Plus 3.
Plus 3x. Very good, Nick. So 3x and 2x give me 5x plus 1. That didn't go anywhere. Negative 11. Okay. Danny, what should I do to get the x by itself now?
Let's see, yeah, minus 1 to both.
All right, I'm going to minus 1. I've got to get rid of the plus and minus on the same side as the x. So minus and 1.
12.
5x equals negative 12. Kenny, what should I do next?
5 divided by 12.
Divide the 5, yep. So because it's already multiplying to the x, so do the opposite. You guys are getting good at solving equations. I like that. This is going to be negative 12 fifths, okay? Leave it as a fraction. It actually works out better when you do it that way. So just leave it as a fraction. Now let's see if both of these answers work. They may or may not. Here's why they may or may not. I'm saying the absolute value of 2x plus 1 could equal the positive or negative of this, but then the negative of this is coming out as a what? A positive. So it doesn't always work, okay? In fact, this one is the one that usually is the one that isn't going to work because you're changing the value of it as you bring it out. You see what I mean? But sometimes neither work. sometimes you get what we call extraneous solutions. It's solutions that would work in a normal equation that you made up, but don't work in the original equation. That's what extraneous solutions are. By the way, that's one of your notes on there. So put that on there. An extraneous solution, it's a definition on there. It's on page, I don't know what page it's on. It's your notes for 1-5.
1-5?
Or 1-4. What are we on?
I think it's 1-4.
1-4. In your notes, oh, right here on page
Oh, yeah.
19. Okay, it says extraneous solutions. You can show them that on there so that they can see. That's where we're going to write this. Extraneous solutions then are answers that work in the equation you did, but don't necessarily work in the original equation. Okay? And we're going to check this. You must, and this is something that's important, you want to write this in your notes too. When you have two absolute values in an equation, okay, one on the left and one on the right, you have to check your answers. You must check your answers. So this is one of those weird times. You know how we always say, oh, check your answer, and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to take the time to do that, right? This is one of those times where you must check your answers because they won't always work, okay? So let's see if this one works. We're going to put it in. And remember, there's an absolute value on both sides. That's why this may or may not work. So let's put in the -10, okay? 2 times -10 is what? What's 2 times -10?
Negative 20.
-20 plus 1 is
Negative 21.
-19. Absolute value of that is 19. Everybody agree with that? -19 is 19 units from 0. Okay, let's try the other side. What's 3 times -10? What's 3 times -10? -30 plus 11. -19. What's the absolute value of -19? 19. Is this a good answer? Yes, for sure. Okay, let's try the 5/12. This is going to be a little harder. 2 times -12/5. Sorry, I said 5/12, but I meant 12/5. Plus 1 equals, now let's try the other side, 3 times -12/5 plus 11. Okay, let's check this out. So, I just multiply straight across. I'm going to have fractions, but that's okay. What's 2 times -12? What's 2 12s?
24.
24. So -24 over 5. Now I need to have a common what? Denominator to add fractions. Always when you're adding fractions, I need a common denominator. So I'm going to change the 1 to 5 over what? 5. Is that still 1? Yeah. It's just that I've changed the nature of it so I can add the fractions. Okay? So what's -24 plus 5? -24 plus 5 is what, Danny? You're -24 on number line, you come back 5, where are you at? Subtract those, keep the sign for this from 0.
19.
-19 over what? Over 5. The common denominator stays. Okay, absolute value of that? 19 over 5. Okay, that's what this left side is. Let's see if the right side ends up the same. It can, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We're going to have to check it. Okay, so again, multiply straight across. -36 over 5. Again, change this to fifths. Add 55 over 5. How did I get 55 over 5? 11 times what? 5, okay? So what's 55 minus 36? You might need a calculator for that. What's 55 minus 36, Sally?
19.
19, so I end up with -19 over 5. Its absolute value would also be what? 19 over what? 5. In this case, both answers what? Worked. Both answers worked. That isn't always the case, okay? But in this case, both answers work. Let's try a couple out of your workbook, okay?
Do all of them.
So we're going to do some of the harder ones. So let's try, we're on page 21. Let's try number 5. And we'll try 7 and 8. These are the ones I'm going to do with you. And if you wanna, as I do this, if you wanna do them like in your book, as if you were doing them with us, that might be
Okay.
good.
I gotta
And
grab.
I think that's the only ones I'm gonna do, okay? So I'm gonna do 5, 7, and 8, and we'll see if these work.
Thanks.
Then I'll let you
I'm
try
gonna
the
have
rest.
to Get up and move the camera.
Okay, so let's do 5. Is 5 a nice problem? What do I mean by that? Does it only have one what? Absolute value. Does it? Yes, there's only one absolute value. That means it's a nice problem. It's probably gonna work, right? If it has more than one absolute value, it could get messy, okay? All right, now there's one other little thing. I'm sorry. What if I had absolute value of x equals negative 11? What could x be?
1.
1. Is the distance from 0 11 if I put in a 1? No, not even close. How about 11? That doesn't work either. Here's why. Because distance shouldn't be measured as what?
Negative.
Negative. So if you have an absolute value equaling a negative value, no solution. Because we don't measure distance in a what? Negative way.
Direction.
Okay? Well, we go 2 different directions, but we don't measure it in a negative way. We never say we're going negative 11 miles. Like I said, unless you're going to hell on negative 11, then maybe. But generally speaking, we don't really say we're going in a negative direction. I mean, seriously, you go to St. George, or you go to, like, I don't know, Boise, it's probably about the same. If you go either way, you're not gonna say, oh, I'm gonna go 300 miles to Boise, or I'm gonna go negative 300 miles to St. George. You're not gonna say that. You're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna go 300 miles either way, right, from here. So that's what you wanna do, is you wanna think of it as always being positive. If the distance isn't positive, it's no solution. So that's something else you might wanna write in your notes. If the absolute value equals a negative value, the answer is what? No solution. All right, now let's try number 5. Can you read me number 5 for me, Gianna?
3, absolute value 2x plus 5 plus 10 equals 37.
And just like our other equations that we've had up till now, the goal is to get, if there's only one absolute value, which there is, get that absolute value by itself. Okay? So, Tristan, what should I get rid of on this side to get the absolute value by itself? Here's the absolute value. I want to get it by itself. What's on the same side as it? The 3 and the what? 10. Which one should I get rid of first?
3.
No. Always get rid of, you got to pedal backwards. What should you get rid of first? The addition and subtraction, right? So let's subtract what? 10. We're going to subtract 10. Do not set up your 2 equations until your absolute value is what? By itself. Do not set up your 2 equations until your absolute value is by itself. That's super important. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 10 both sides. 3, 2x plus 5. Oops, sorry, close the absolute value. Equals 27. Now, what is the 3 doing to the absolute value, Griffin? So how do I get rid of it? Good. I'm going to divide by what? By the 3, both sides. 2x plus 5, absolute value, is, what's 27 divided by 3? 9. Now I'm ready to set up what?
2 minus.
2 equations. I'm ready to set up 2 equations, right? Okay? So, I have to think positive direction to 9 and negative direction to 9, right? So what are the 2 equations I set up, Dakota?
2x plus 5 equals negative 9.
And what's the other equation?
2x plus 5 equals 9.
So one is exactly the same, one is just the opposite direction. Everybody got it? Think direction. That's kind of the key. Okay, Callie, what should I do here to get the x by itself? What should I get rid of first?
Get rid of the x, get rid of.
No, I want the x by itself. I want to get rid of the 2 and the 5. Which one should I get rid of first?
We're pounding backwards, so.
Yes.
It's the 5,
Good. So I should do what to both sides?
minus 5.
Good. Will that change on this equation? Nope, same, right? Everybody got that? It's the same on both equations. Will you get the same value though? No. Okay, don't think you will, because you won't. So Logan, what's this one gonna be? This Logan. What's this gonna be? -9 minus 5 more. I'm still going in a negative direction. -14. Other Logan, what you gonna get? 9 minus 5. 4. Good. Okay, Brian, what should I do to both sides of both equations now? By? Very good. Divide by 2. Both equations. You can do two at the same time here. Okay, just don't think you're going to get the same answer. It won't be the same answer, but you can do them at the same time. X will be what? -7, and X will be what? 2. Is it super important that we check our answer here? No. How come?
Too hard.
Well, it's not too hard. We could do it. It's just that there was only one what? Absolute value. If there's one absolute value, not so important to check your answer. Because we know it's either going to be a positive or a negative direction from 9. We know both these should work. I'll show you they do. 2 times 2 is? 4 plus 5 is? 4 plus 5 is? 9. Absolute value of 9 is? 9. 9 times 3 is? 27 plus 10 is? Okay, we're good. Let's try, which one did I just try? Was that the 2?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try the -7. 2 times -7 is? -14 plus 5 is? -9. That's really all I gotta check. How come? What's the absolute value of -9? +9, it'll end up being exactly the same, right? So that's all you gotta check, is that it's the opposite direction. But like I said, did I really need to check that one all that much? Now, if I did my math right, I know that's right. It's gotta work both ways. Because this 9 wasn't in absolute values. If it was, it would create a problem sometimes. So you gotta kind of watch that when you do have 2 absolute values. You gotta check the answer. But if there's 1, you don't have to worry about it. Which is why we're gonna do both 7 and what? 8. So Sally, read me 7, will you?
Absolute value P plus 4 equals absolute value P minus 2.
Okay. So what's one equation I should set up, Gianna? By the way, does it matter whether an absolute value is all by itself at this point? No, you're going to set one side equal to the other side anyway, and it's opposite. You just have to choose one. Don't do both. That's where kids get messed up. They'll try and take the negative of both of them, and then you're right back where you started. So don't do that. Just take P plus 4, we're going to concentrate on that one, equals what? P minus 2. Or P plus 4 equals, what else could it equal? The opposite direction of